Hey everyone, this is Curb Knight bringing you another standard match. Today on the left we do have Thegrea, which is a deck we haven't seen in quite a while. I believe the last time we saw it on the channel I was playing it myself. But this time I'm going to be on the right playing Lianorn Masques once again. So honestly, this whole position is pretty favorable for me. I have actually fought this player before and I did manage to kind of clock him, I guess, for lack of a better word. But I am going first, which is really good in this matchup because I have the ability to aggro rush, and I know from playing Thegrea myself that Thegrea has probably one of the weakest early games in the format because you do have to honestly wait until turn 4 to do anything. But once you do get to that turn 4, it is just like a huge amount of power and like consistency and drawing cards, so it does get pretty good once you reach that turn 4 for Thegrea. So my goal here is basically to prevent Thegrea from getting to that turn 4, which is why I'm calling down even the tide line. Once again, I think I said it in the last video, I do actually have a Diantha in hand, which is why I feel so good about recklessly throwing out my tide lines early in the game. But we are going to be seeing how well of a play that's going to turn out. But you know, I do think like my priority number 1 is to deal as much damage as I can before Thegrea gets to that grade 4 turn, which is actually pretty good for me because that means when after his first grade 3 turn, that is when I am actually able to pop off. So we are seeing just a bunch of easy swings, calling down the Drill Angel, putting the Dark Thegrea into the Soul, which is what you want to be doing when you're playing Thegrea, trying to stem the bleeding of the Rush, swinging the Drilling Angel into that tide line. Once again, I do have a Diantha in my hand, so I'm going to decide that I don't really care right now. I'll just call it back when I need it. So I think I did another one of a little misplays. You did see me OT to pass the Vanguard last turn, which again I think is a little bit of a mistake because I think you just take as much damage as you can early in Masques, and we are going to be seeing it biting me in the ass right here, where I'm going to be drawing a card, considering I only have one counterblast. If I had had another counterblast, I would have been able to actually do something, but I am going to have to forcefully call that Diantha or discard another card, and I'm also going to have to call the Neil serving the Dragon Tree Searcher, and of course I can't use either of their skills because I used up my one counterblast. So if I had taken that other damage, I would have been at least able to either call something out or actually just search out Masques, but it looks like it's not really going to matter. I am going to be hitting into a critical trigger there, pushing Thegrea to 3, and then restanding the Diantha and swing for a 33k column, which is going to call for a 15-point guard, which we're probably going to have to commit because we do not want to be at 4 already. That would be really, really bad considering we have to withstand the Masque turn next. So we are actually committing 3 cards, 2 of them being the Maple, so it's not too bad, and the Intercept as well. So calling out the Maple from the drop zone, checking the top 5, and adding the grade 1 Maple. Another thing I didn't really mention is that we are playing the Thegrea ride line rather than just having the Maple in the ride line. I honestly don't really like grade 1 Maple, or grade 1 Thegrea, but you know, I guess it is kind of up to preference. It's not a huge difference, but you know, whatever. Anyways, we are seeing the order played, which is the thing you want to do. So pretty much everything is going according to plan for Thegrea at the moment, using the Light Thegrea skill to counterblast 1, and since we do have the Dark one in the Soul, we are going to be able to call 2 instead of just 1. So we are going to be calling that Divine Sister, as well as the Psycho card. Of course, we can't use the Psycho card quite yet, but it will be there as a body, something that can at least swing into the grade 2 or be an intercept, I suppose. So we're just going to be going into this turn, swinging at the Vanguard. I need damage for my next turn, so I'm just going to opt to take it. Thankfully for me, he does actually hit a critical trigger, which is going to be very nice because it means that I can safely guard a lot of these attacks. We are, unfortunately for me, going to be hitting into a heal trigger, which is going to be very annoying. Damage checking 2 of those Dragon Tree grade 2s, swinging the 10k at the rear guard. I'm thinking I commit the 5k shield here because I think that he's going to try and damage deny me, and he's probably going to commit that entire Maple column, which is at this point really big because it is 25, 35, 45, and I figure he's either going to swing at my Vanguard, which I don't care, or he's going to commit it into the grade 2, which I also don't really care. So that's why I opted to guard my Dragon Tree, and I believe I'm a fucking top deck god, and I top decked another tide line here where I draw a card and then I just call out the tide line from hand. So Even though I messed up with a Diantha and I don't have one anymore, I'm going to just obviously top deck all of my cards. And I believe I Persona Ride, and then off my Persona Ride draw, I get another Tide Line. So I guess I'm just a fucking god with this deck. Anyways, we are going to be calling down the double Tide Line. If we had been at 3, if the opponent had been at 3, this would have been probably almost guaranteed game over right here, right now. But thanks to that heal, I think that the ability for us to actually close out the game right here and now is a little bit less. So we're swinging the 40k Tide Line Dragon, not hitting into anything, seeing the second 40k Tide Line Dragon hitting into a front trigger, which is a little annoying, but we are still hitting over 40k, so these defensive triggers aren't going to matter that much. But we are going to be swinging with the entire back row, including that Diantha. Not that it matters a whole bunch. Diantha is like a 13k booster, but most of the time it's not really going to make that much of an impact. But it's still a 40k swing, and that is going to be calling for either a PG or a lot of cards to guard it. So it looks like we're going to be putting down a 15-30. That would be with the defensive trigger. That is 53, which is a 1 to pass. And looks like we are going to opt to call down the grade 1 Maple to make it a 2 to pass. I'm going to flip over the first check, and it is going to be a critical trigger. But as you guys know, I am not a gambling man, so I give it to one of my Tide Lines. And of course, it does pay off because that second trigger was not another one. But we are going to be standing both of the Tide Lines, swinging for 50 with that extra critical for lethal, and then swing the 40. I think I'm just going to opt to swing at the Vanguard because my man already has 4 open counterblasts. I don't think another one is going to really make that much of a difference. But unfortunately, I was unable to close it out there. If we hadn't seen the heal, it definitely would have been game over there if we can kind of see the cards in his hand. I think he ended turn with just 1 copy of each Thegrea. So if we hadn't had that heal, then it would have been totally just game over there and then. But it wasn't, and we still have to play this out. So it's going to be riding into the Dark Thegrea, popping the 2 grade 2s to wipe out my entire column, calling back the grade 1 Maple behind the Vanguard, calling back this Cycle card, which is actually pretty good. Let's you look at the top 2 cards of your deck. One of them gets added to your hand and the other goes to the top or the bottom. I'm going to be putting that other Maple because we already do have 2 in the drop zone, so we don't really need another one, and adding a PG. So then we swing the Vanguard for 46. I want damage because I have 0 counterblast right now, so I'm just going to be taking it. I was just kind of hoping he would get a critical trigger there just to get me those guaranteed 2 hits, but he is not, as we are going to be hitting a 46. I'm thinking a critical trigger kind of adds me here, so I kind of have to PG this, but we do actually see that critical trigger, meaning that I have to guard at least another attack. So I think the correct swing here is probably to just swing the 50k at the Vanguard. I am considering this other Divine Sister is probably going to be swinging at either my rear guard or my Vanguard. Either way, I'm probably going to intercept with the Tide Line. So I'm going to just kind of take it out of the hand by taking that choice out of his hand by just intercepting with it. I don't actually have Persona Ride next turn, and intercepting with that Tide Line kind of ensures that either he passes on the swing, the 30k swing, or he gives me that last damage that I need, the 2 counterblasts that I'm hoping to have. Unfortunately, we don't have the Persona Ride, so this turn is looking to be pretty bad. Now, I do have enough cards to actually build a board, as we're going to see the mushrooms coming on down. That gives me 2 cards onto board, which is... they're bodies, but they're not really good bodies, especially since I didn't Persona Ride, and I'm barely going to be able to do anything, calling a Prosper from hand. And I think here is where I have a huge game determinative misplay. As if you remember, I actually didn't use the Lianorn Masques first skill because there really wasn't any point because I had a full board. But I think that if I had actually used that skill here, not only would I have been able to take out a 5k shield, I would have actually gotten the Diantha back, which would have been a much, much better attacker. But we are going for basically base Lianorn here, boosting with the 3 cards instead of attacking with the others because the tokens can't even hit. And we do see me actually hitting into OT here. Unfortunately, I don't think this is enough to win me the game. At this point, I'm like even thinking about it. I do only have to get 1 more attack through, but I do only have 2 swings. One is 100 million, so if he doesn't have a PG for that, then it is game. But if he does, the other swing probably isn't going to be enough to actually close things out. I do only have 3 cards in hand, even though I did heal down to 4. Realistically, I don't have much of a chance of surviving. but we do have a decently big swing coming up here. This 33, this would have been 41 if I had actually been able to swing with the, what's it called, the Diantha. And I think we did have a little bit of misplay. I think I might have calculated the power wrong there, because we did see him guard for, what was that, 33, but realistically he did have that intercept there, so we could have just called in that extra intercept. So the only thing it would have really mattered, would have changed, is that he wouldn't have had that, and I mean, he's just going to be calling from the top 5 again. Although if I had actually done things correctly, like I had actually called the Diantha like I was supposed to, given by the cards that he had left in his hand, I actually would have won that turn. But you know, my misplay cost me the game, and at this point I've got 3 cards in hand. One is a PG, and then 2 more unknowns off of the OT. But realistically, this is a 4 attack turn, because we did Persona Ride into the other card, and then we have that other Divine Sister plus the grade 1 Maple, which is swinging for 43, and it's going to be swinging for 43 twice. So realistically, I don't really have much of a chance. I do have to take one of these swings, taking the first, actually getting a defensive, but I don't really think it's going to be mattering. We're going to be swinging for 28, and calculating with the cards left in my hand, I think that I have a PG, but I don't actually think I have enough to guard this last Maple, so I'm probably going to be betting on a 6 damage heal here. So I'm going to just opt to 1 to pass this, because that's my only real win con, but we are going to be hitting into that critical trigger that we probably saw off of the top. So that's going to be it for the match. I hope you guys enjoyed. Yeah, I just had a 15k and a PG. So hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to do all those YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.